Hey, thanks for joining me for this time called Talk It Over, where we discuss the scriptures that we've been digging into on our weekend messages, and we have an opportunity to dig a little deeper. We really get some time to process what God is saying specifically to each one of us. Now, today's message began with a really specific statement that we all know to be true, that everyone has doubts. No matter who you are in the world, you have doubts. Now, the question that I have for you is, what doubts are there that are keeping you from having greater faith in your life? Take some time, journal that right now, push pause on this video, or discuss it with the people that you're with. And then we're going to jump into this conversation. And as we read the scripture, I'd encourage you to pause the video, then read the scripture, underline the words that you find there, and then resume the conversation. And each time I ask you a question, again, pause, journal it, or have a conversation with your friends. This is a really, really good exercise. You're going to find that it's actually a great tool for you to grow in your faith. So now, answer this question. What doubts keep you from having greater faith? Okay, so this scripture happens right after Jesus has appeared to the 11 disciples, because one of them's missing. We'll get there in a minute. And they are locked in a room, it says, because they're afraid of the Jewish authorities, which murdered Jesus. And so that's a good, rational reason for fear. And so they're hiding behind the closed doors, locked away. And it says that Jesus appeared to them, and he said to them, hey, you know what? Look at the holes in my hands and my feet. And look at the stab wound in my side. It's really me. I just want you to know this is the real story. This is the real truth. And then they have a conversation with Jesus, and he says, hey, you know what? I send you as my Father has sent me. And then after that, Jesus says, you know what? Your job is to forgive. Go and forgive. If you forgive, there will be forgiveness. If you don't forgive, there's not going to be any forgiveness. Essentially, you got to get to work. This is big work. Now, this is what happens next. Read the scripture. You're going to love it. And then we're going to jump into more conversation. John 20, verse 24 through 25. Okay, great. The first thing that I think that we can learn from this is to be honest about the information you need for your faith to grow. Now remember, everybody has doubts. They call Thomas doubting Thomas, but that's totally unfair because all 11 other disciples had already received what Thomas was asking to get. He wanted to see the holes in Jesus' hands and in his side. And the other disciples already had that, and they had doubts before they saw Jesus, so everybody doubts. So be honest about the information you need for your faith to grow. So this is the question I have for you. Are you assertive with your feelings, or do you hold back? What made you this way? Are you someone who's like, you know what, I'm going to share my doubts, or are you someone that's like, I'm going to keep that all to myself? And what are the influences that made you like this? Interesting. Okay, now I want you to read John chapter 20, verse 26. Okay, second thing that I pulled out of this is simple. Know that Jesus will overcome every barrier to bring you his peace. Jesus walks past closed doors that are locked. He's not inhibited by any barrier, even the doubt that we have that has hardened our own hearts. Now, my question for you is, do you feel like your heart has recently gotten softer or harder? Why? Okay, now I want you to read John chapter 20, verse 27 through 29. Okay, what I took away from this is simple. Believing, or actually, this is what we should do. We should believe without seeing. Seeing is not necessary for believing. You've ever heard people say, seeing is believing? It's not always. Now, my question for you is, why do you think some people have an easier time believing without seeing? Here's the last scripture I'd like you to read. It's John chapter 20, verse 20 through 31. Okay, fourth point for today. Fourth thing. Read the scriptures. Notice in scriptures it says, hey, these scriptures are written so that you can believe. They're actually evidence. They are proof. They are tangible representations of who Jesus was, what he really did, and what really happened in the world. So there you go. You want to put your finger in the nail hole of Jesus. You want to really come into an understanding or discovery of who Jesus is. You you cannot find a better source than the scriptures themselves. They are written, they say, scripture says this, to help us believe. Now, question for you. What are new ways you can build scripture reading into your life? Okay, this is a big conversation, and I really appreciate your honesty about your doubts. I really appreciate that you are able to, start thinking about what are those things that have been keeping you from having a more vitalized faith in your life, and what are those barriers along the way. I pray that as you reflect on these things, you recognize none of these things are too big for Jesus to overcome. Jesus can stand over those places of uncertainty in your life. He can stand over those places of hardened heart. If you mentioned that your heart is getting harder during this time, I want you to take that and just say, hey, you know what? This is not a barrier that's too great for you, Jesus. This is something that you can overcome, and you have overcome. And so I just pray that you find yourself in this posture, you find yourself encouraged and lifted up through these conversations. And if you need further conversation, if this is starting to work on your heart and mind and you feel like, okay, you know what? I need to take this to another level. I need to talk to someone one-on-one. We're here at Highlands. That's what our small groups are for, but it's also what our pastors are here for. So we'd like to be able to serve you in that way. God bless you. This is Talk It Over. This isn't the last one we do. We do it every single week. So I hope you join us again next week. I'd love to hear the stories of how this is blessing you in your life. So please send those my direction. Again, at james@highlandsadventure.org. And God bless you. We're praying for you, and we are here for you. If there's anything you need at all, please let us know. We will do everything we can to help you out. God bless.